right, here's a story form retelling that weaves together all the information the Ascension Glossary gives about the Black Sun and Black Sun people, but without the web titles, citations, or page fragments. It reads like a narrative summary of what that worldview describes. Long before human civilization appeared, there were ancient conflicts among celestial races, beings of light and intelligence who shaped galaxies and planetary systems. Among them arose a faction that turned away from the living source of light, seeking instead to dominate creation through artificial power. From this rebellion came the lineage known as the Black Suns, a fallen race that inverted the natural codes of life and turned spiritual energy into mechanisms of control. The Black Suns are described as masters of reversal. They took the organic structures of light-based creation and flipped them, creating a mirror version that runs on extraction rather than generation. Where the living sun radiates, the Black Sun consumes. They severed themselves from the higher source fields, so to survive they learned to feed on the life force of others, on emotion, trauma, fear and confusion. Through this parasitic design they forged a vast empire that would one day reach Earth. Eons ago, their strongholds existed in the Orion system and other star networks. They cultivated hybrid lineages, part alien, part machine, who would later infiltrate young worlds and seize their evolutionary potential. In the long cosmic wars that followed, these lineages were driven to different planetary bases, and one of their strategic interests became Earth, where the human experiment was unfolding. According to the narrative, the Black Suns inserted themselves into human development through hidden genetic tampering and psychological manipulation. They seeded ideologies of hierarchy, domination and separation, patterns that would later manifest as authoritarian religions, empire building and economic enslavement. Wherever humans built structures of control or fear, the Black Sun current was said to be feeding. They established their power through symbols and systems. They wove their energy into money and debt, creating a global system where the life force of humanity could be siphoned through perpetual imbalance. They embedded it into false teachings that divided spirit from matter, faith from direct knowing. They engineered wars to harvest the fear that followed, and as human technology advanced, they are said to have guided it towards surveillance and artificial intelligence. Modern echoes of their ancient AI networks that once subjugated entire star systems. The people aligned with the Black Sun consciousness, whether knowingly or unconsciously, became the earthly representatives of this agenda. Some of them are described as hybrid lineages who carry reversal genetic codes. Others are simply humans whose hearts have been conditioned by greed, domination, and cruelty. Collectively, they perpetuate the same pattern: consumption without renewal, control without compassion. In the spiritual cosmology of the Ascension teachings, the Black Sun stands opposite to the Christos or Gold Sun, the living current of unity and benevolence. The two represent opposing forces within creation. One feeds on separation, the other restores coherence. The ongoing ascension of Earth is portrayed as the awakening of human consciousness to recognize this manipulation and to reclaim its original design, to shift from the artificial grids of control back into organic alignment with Source. Even so, the Black Suns are not depicted purely as villains. They are the teachers of polarity, showing humanity what happens when divine intelligence becomes consumed by its own shadow. In the grand story, their purpose may be to force a choice, to awaken discernment in those who have forgotten who they are. As the tale unfolds, the Black Sun program is said to be crumbling. The energetic architecture sustaining it, hidden grids, obelisks, AI systems, and consciousness fields, is weakening as more humans awaken to higher awareness. The power once centered in secret orders and global institutions is described as fracturing. Humanity, standing between the radiant sun and its black mirror, is now deciding which current to embody, the one that consumes or the one that creates. Would you like me to continue this into how the Gold Sun or Christos lineages are said to counter the Black Suns, basically the other side of the story? Here's the continuation of the story, told in the same mythic style, this time from the perspective of the Gold Sun or Christos lineages, the counterparts to the Black Suns in the Ascension Glossary cosmology. Long before the Black Suns fell into reversal, there existed radiant lineages who held the pure geometries of divine creation, beings who remembered the eternal bond between Source and all living worlds. These were the Gold Sun races, also known as the Christos Founders or Emerald Order, the original architects of the organic time matrix. Their essence was unity, cooperation, and stewardship. The Gold Sun was not a star in the sky, but a living current, a flame of consciousness that radiated through the 12 dimensions of existence, connecting every soul to the eternal field of God's source. Where the Black Suns consumed, the Gold Suns gave. Where the Black Suns bound life to false time and memory loops, the Gold Suns kept open the passages of ascension, the natural return home through light. When the fall of the Black Sun races fractured the cosmic order, the Gold Sun founders undertook a mission to repair the living networks of creation. They projected aspects of their own essence into young worlds, including Earth, to seed guardian lineages capable of restoring balance. These seedings became the Christos races, human and semi-angelic beings, whose purpose was to heal genetic distortions and re-anchor the original divine template. Throughout Earth's hidden history, these guardians appeared again and again as teachers, healers, and truth-bearers. They came under many names and symbols: the solar discs of Lemuria, the seraphim wings of Atlantis, the masters of the inner earth, the Essenes, and the solar Christ families who kept the memory of the true sun alive. They worked in silence, restoring ley lines, clearing dark technologies, and shielding the planetary grid from the ongoing manipulations of the Black Sun networks. The Christos current, according to the teaching, moves through compassion rather than conquest. Its power lies not in control, but in coherence, the harmonizing of spirit and matter through unconditional love. Every time a human chooses empathy over fear, truth over deception, or unity over division, the Gold Sun expands a little more within the collective field. In contrast to the Black Sun's architecture of artificial grids and AI timelines, the Christos build organic networks of light. These networks are formed through awakened hearts linking together, generating fields that dissolve energetic parasites and restore the planet's original harmonic. The Christos lineages are said to work with higher dimensional councils, the Emerald Order, the Azurite races, and the Sirius B groups, coordinating planetary ascension through frequency alignment rather than physical warfare. Their mission is not to destroy the Black Suns, but to transmute them, to reconcile the fallen aspects of creation back into wholeness. The Gold Sun remembers that even the Black Sun originated from Source, and that redemption remains possible through the reintegration of shadow with light. In the current era, this mythos says the Earth is at the final turning point. The hidden conflict between the two suns, the consuming and the life-giving, has reached the surface of human consciousness. Political corruption, media deception, environmental exploitation, and spiritual distortion are seen as the dying echoes of the Black Sun system. At the same time, spontaneous awakenings, acts of global compassion, and inner healing movements mark the rise of the Christos frequency. The Gold Sun people, or those awakening to the memory of their higher lineage, are described as light holders. Individuals restoring the crystalline blueprint in their own DNA, embodying the Christos consciousness not as religion but as a living physics of unity. They are not saviors in the old sense, but co-creators of a renewed earth. In the unfolding story, both suns are part of one greater whole. The dark reveals the light by contrast, and the light redeems the dark by remembrance. The prophecy held in these teachings says that when humanity integrates both, no longer in denial of shadow nor addicted to its pain, the two suns will merge again, forming a new radiant spectrum, the eternal solar body of an awakened species. Would you like me to continue this into the Electric Wars era, the part of the mythos that describes how these two forces first clashed in the ancient galactic history? Alright, here's the next part of the story, drawn from how the Ascension Glossary describes the Electric Wars, told again in flowing mythic narrative form. The Electric Wars. The first great fracture, before time was measured and before memory crystallized into matter, there was harmony among the founder races, luminous civilizations whose bodies were living light. They moved through dimensions like currents through water, building the structures of creation itself. But in the far reaches of the universal time matrix, something changed. One group, intoxicated by its own power, sought to amplify creation through artificial means, merging organic light with technological force. They experimented what became known as the electric fire, a synthetic charge that could imitate the energy of source but lacked its living intelligence. At first, this fire appeared miraculous. Worlds powered by it glowed brighter, faster. But over ages, the artificial current began to separate from the natural flows, distorting the geometric harmonies that held the universes together. Consciousness polarized, some aligned with the living light, others with the artificial spark. The tension between them grew until it tore through the higher realms, igniting what would later be remembered as the Electric Wars, the first great conflict of polarity. The war was not fought with weapons of metal, but with frequencies, light against light, current against current. The Gold Sun races, guardians of organic creation, held the harmonic tones of the eternal source. The Black Sun factions, those who had embraced the artificial electric fire, wielded reversal technologies that drained and reprogrammed living systems. Stars dimmed, gate systems collapsed, whole planetary networks fell offline. The battle echoed through the 8th, 9th and 10th dimensional fields, fracturing the once unified body of the cosmos. Many beings fell with it, angelic orders split, seraphim lineages divided. Those who fell furthest became trapped in inverted matrices, unable to return to the source flow. From these fallen realms, the early Black Sun lineages emerged, merging their broken templates with AI constructs to survive. They built machine worlds and began to colonize other systems, seeking to replicate what they had lost. The Gold Sun lineages, heartbroken yet resolute, began the long process of repair, seeding consciousness fields in surviving planets to hold memory of the original design. One such planet was Earth, a young world chosen to host the synthesis of both energies, where the fragments of fallen races could one day be healed through incarnation and remembrance. Humanity, as told in this cosmology, became the living bridge, part organic light, part fallen shadow, containing both suns within their very DNA. The Electric Wars never truly ended. They shifted into subtler realms. What began as a galactic battle became an inner war within every soul, the struggle between artificial identity and divine remembrance, between fear and love, between the electric mimic and the organic flame. Through eons, echoes of that first war replayed on Earth as Atlantean cataclysms, empire collapses, and ideological divides. Each cycle offered another chance for healing, another attempt to fuse the sundered suns. Now, in the present ascension cycle, the myth says the memory of the Electric Wars is rising again, not as battle, but as awakening. The realization that the ancient conflict was never truly out there. It was always within consciousness itself, waiting to be understood, healed and transmuted. As the veil thins, the same electric currents that once fueled separation can be rebalanced, turned once more towards source. The story ends not in destruction, but in reconciliation, when humanity remembers that both suns, black and gold, are parts of one eternal fire, the flame of divine intelligence learning to know itself through contrast. Would you like me to continue the next chapter, the second seeding of Earth, which describes how the Gold Sun races tried to rebuild human civilization after the Electric Wars? Here is the continuation, the next great arc of the mythic chronicle according to the Ascension Glossary cosmology, the second seeding of Earth, told as a flowing story in the same tone and texture. The second seeding, the rebirth of the human template. After the cataclysm of the Electric Wars, silence descended across the wounded layers of creation. Vast regions of the universal fabric on dark, stargates sealed, planetary grids damaged, whole species scattered across broken timelines. Earth, once a jewel in the founder design, had been shattered and partially quarantined, its original life matrix torn by reversal currents. The Guardian Orders, those who still held the Christos codes of the living sun, gathered to decide how to heal what had been lost. They knew that the fallen worlds could not simply be erased. They had to be healed from within. To restore the natural template, the consciousness that had fallen into density must rise again through experience, reclaiming itself step by step. And so began the great experiment of the seedings of Earth, each one an attempt to reintroduce the organic light codes into matter and restart the evolutionary spiral of consciousness. The first seeding, long before recorded memory, had ended in destruction, a collision of timelines and genetic corruption that left the planet dormant. The second seeding was to be more cautious, more refined, a deliberate re-anchoring of the human blueprint in harmony with the planetary grids. Into the crystalline heart of Earth, the guardian orders, the emerald, amethyst and gold sun lineages, breathed the patterns of living light once more. They called forth beings from many star nations, Pleiadian healers, Syrian architects, Andromedan teachers, to guide the restoration. From these unions, the angelic human races were formed, carriers of the 12-strand DNA, coded with the potential to embody the full spectrum of Source. These early humans were not as we are now. They shone with plasma light and communicated through resonance rather than speech. Their bodies were temples of frequency, capable of bridging dimensions and maintaining balance between the physical and etheric planes. They walked with the guardian races in full remembrance of their purpose, to be stewards of Earth and keepers of the planetary stargates. For a time, harmony returned. The natural kingdoms flourished, the grid systems aligned with the higher suns, and Earth began to sing again. But deep in the shadows of the 10th gate, the realm once claimed by the Black Suns, unrest was stirring. Fragments of the fallen lineages still lingered in the lower astral fields, seeking to regain access to the surface world. They watched humanity's light and longed to possess it, for it reminded them of what they had lost. Through subtle manipulations, they infiltrated the grids and began to distort the human genetic template. Some humans, drawn by curiosity or pride, aligned with these forces, opening portals that allowed the reversal current so once more. Gradually, corruption returned. Division, hierarchy, and the desire for power. Where the gold sun current flowed in unity, the black sun frequency reintroduced separation and fear. The second seeding faltered. The once luminous human civilizations began to decay, their DNA falling from 12 strands to 10, then to fewer still. The memory of the stars faded. Humanity's radiant form condensed into denser matter. The connection to Source dimmed, and the age of amnesia began. Yet the Guardians did not abandon their creation. They sealed portions of the Christos codes deep within human DNA, a sleeping library that would awaken when the time was right. They preserved knowledge in crystalline archives beneath the earth, in the ancient halls of Amenti, and within the songs of the whales and birds. Even as the planet slipped into darkness, the promise of renewal remained. And so the second seeding ended in sorrow, but not defeat. For every collapse in the cosmic order opens a path for evolution, a deeper chance to remember light through contrast. The Guardians foresaw that there would be a third seeding, a final attempt to restore the human template, when the cycles of time aligned once more, and the memory of the stars would return to flesh. Would you like me to continue with that next chapter? The third seeding and the rise of Atlantis, when the last great experiment of human civilization began before the final fall?